Imagine this. You're at a crowded dinner party, surrounded by people who seem effortlessly engaged in small talk, smiling, laughing, nodding at just the right moments. But you're exhausted. Not physically, but mentally. Every word you say feels rehearsed. Every reaction feels calculated. You're measuring yourself against 100 invisible expectations, making sure you fit, making sure you impress, making sure you don't make the wrong move. Now, imagine walking out. Not just out of the room, but out of that entire way of living. Imagine dropping the weight of approval, the need to be liked, the silent war to be enough. Imagine if, for once, you simply did not care. Sounds liberating, doesn't it? Yet, here's the paradox. Society teaches you that caring, endlessly, obsessively, is the key to success, connection, and self-worth. You must care about your image, care about your reputation, care about what others think. But has all this caring ever made you truly free? Or has it instead built the perfect cage? The truth is, most people don't live their own lives. They live a performance. They curate their every action to fit invisible scripts written by parents, teachers, social media, and cultural norms. They sacrifice their authenticity on the altar of approval. They spend years molding themselves into an image that isn't even theirs, until one day, they wake up and wonder why they feel so lost. But here's where it gets even darker. This obsession with caring is not just a personal struggle, it's a system. A silent machine that thrives on insecurity, a psychological trap that keeps people in line. The world wants you to care because when you care too much, you become controllable. Think about it. The more you care about what others think, the easier it is for them to dictate your actions. The more you seek validation, the more power you give away. And in a world that profits from your fears, the last thing it wants is for you to be truly free. This is why the art of not giving a fuck is more than just an attitude. It's a rebellion, a radical act of self-liberation. But here's the real question. What does it truly mean to not give a fuck? Is it recklessness, indifference, nihilism, or is it something deeper, something wiser? Something that the ancient Stoics, men who faced exile, persecution, and death, understood better than anyone. The answer is far more profound than you think, and once you see it, you can never unsee it, because the only way to truly be free is to master the art of not giving a fuck. But before we get there, we need to expose the hidden mechanism, the real reason you care so much in the first place. Why do you care so much? Not just about the big things, your career, your relationships, your health, but about the smallest, most meaningless details. Why does one disapproving glance from a stranger unsettle you? Why does the idea of being judged, criticized, or disliked grip you with silent fear? It's not because you're weak, it's because you're human. Psychologists call it the social survival instinct, an ancient mechanism wired into your brain long before civilization existed. Back when humans roamed in tribes, being accepted wasn't a luxury, it was life or death. If the tribe rejected you, you didn't just lose friends, you lost protection, food, safety. You became prey. And so, over thousands of years, your brain evolved to fear rejection like it fears death. This is why your mind treats every social misstep, every awkward silence, every disapproving stare, as a threat. It's why public speaking terrifies more people than death. It's why we chase validation, crave approval, and live in quiet terror of being cast out. But here's the problem. The world has changed, but your brain hasn't. You no longer live in a small tribe. You will not die if a stranger dislikes you. Your survival does not depend on fitting into a narrow social hierarchy. And yet, your brain still reacts as if it does. It still tells you that you must belong, you must be liked, you must be accepted, or else. But here's where it gets even more sinister. Modern society exploits this instinct. From the moment you're born, you are trained to seek approval. First from parents, then from teachers, then from bosses, peers, and faceless crowds on the internet. You're taught to measure your worth by how much you are liked. And when you inevitably feel insecure, guess what? There's always something to buy, some standard to chase, some new way to prove your value. This is what Nietzsche called the herd mentality, the silent force that keeps people small, obedient, and afraid to stand alone. Because the more you fear rejection, the easier you are to control. The more you seek approval, the more power you give away. And so, you live in an invisible cage, one made not of iron bars, but of expectations, opinions, and fears. But here's the question that will set you free. What if you stopped? What if you stopped seeking approval? What if you stopped caring what strangers, critics, and faceless masses think? What if you rejected the invisible script you were given? At first, your brain would panic. It would scream at you to conform, to apologize, to fit in. But then, something would happen. A moment of stillness, a strange, unfamiliar feeling, freedom. But before you can truly embrace that freedom, you must face a darker truth, one that most people never see. Because the real danger isn't just that you care too much, it's what caring too much is doing to you. And once you see it, you will never look at the world the same way again. Imagine this: you're on your deathbed, your body is frail, your breath shallow. The world around you is fading, and in these final moments, your mind doesn't wander to your achievements or possessions. Instead, it replays something else. All the time you wasted worrying about things that never mattered, the opinions of people you barely knew, the fear of standing out, the endless cycle of seeking approval. And now, as the weight of regret sets in, you realize something chilling. Your life was never truly yours. This is the unseen consequence of caring too much. You spend your life living for others, not for yourself. But it's worse than that, because when you give too much power to the opinions of others, you don't just lose time, you lose yourself. Think about this. Every time you hesitate to speak your mind, every time you shrink yourself to fit in, every time you abandon your true desires because you're afraid of judgment, you are chipping away at your soul. And after years of this, something terrifying happens. You forget who you really are. You become a reflection of what others expect. Your thoughts are shaped by what's acceptable. Your actions are dictated by what's rewarded. And your identity, your true, raw, unfiltered self, gets buried under layers of pretense. The ancient Stoics had a word for this: self-imprisonment. Seneca warned that most people die without ever having truly lived, not because life is short, but because they waste it, trapped in fear, bound by invisible chains of public opinion. But here's the part no one tells you. The world does not care about you as much as you think. That embarrassing moment you replay in your head at night, forgotten by everyone else. The judgment you fear from others, they are too busy fearing their own. Every person you worry about impressing is caught in their own mental prison, just like you. So why are you still living as if their approval defines you? Let's be brutally honest. The more you chase external validation, the weaker you become. You let people control your emotions, dictate your choices, and determine your worth. And when you live like this long enough, you become something you never intended to be: a slave. A slave to expectations. A slave to fleeting opinions. A slave to a world that will forget you the moment you're gone. And here's the paradox. No matter how much you try to please others, it will never be enough. You can be the kindest person in the world, and someone will still hate you. You can follow every rule, and society will still find a reason to criticize. You can exhaust yourself trying to be perfect, and someone, somewhere, will still say you're not good enough. So why not do something radical? Why not reclaim your life? Why not choose to live on your own terms instead of dying by 1,000 small compromises? But breaking free is not easy. The world conditions you to obey, to conform, to care. And if you want to escape, you must do something rare. You must rebel, not with anger, not with hatred, but with something far more powerful: indifference, radical, unshakable indifference. And that is where true freedom begins. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast crowd. Everyone around you is shackled, not by chains, but by something far stronger: fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being different. And then you see one person walking in the opposite direction, free, unbothered, untouched by the invisible prison. That person is not fearless. They have simply mastered the art of indifference. They have stopped caring about things that do not matter. And this is your moment of decision. Will you remain shackled, or will you break free? The first step: radical perspective shift. Most people believe caring too much is a virtue, that to be considerate, empathetic, and well-liked is the pinnacle of a good life. But this is a lie. The truth? Caring about everything is the surest path to misery. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor burdened with the weight of an entire empire, wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What does this mean? It means you cannot control how people see you. You cannot control whether they approve of you. You cannot control the world's chaotic, ever-changing judgments, but you can control how much you let it affect you. And that is the ultimate rebellion, to realize that external opinions are illusions, and that your peace comes only from within. The second step: mastering the power of indifference. Most people misunderstand what not giving a fuck truly means. It does not mean being reckless. It does not mean being cruel. It does not mean closing yourself off from love or connection. It means being highly selective about what actually deserves your energy. Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become one of history's greatest philosophers, once said, "If someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Instead, simply say, 'They must not know me very well.'" Do you see the power in this? It's not about proving yourself. It's about realizing you don't have to. The weak fight for approval. The strong remain unshaken. So, how do you cultivate this level of indifference? Here's a simple rule. Whenever you catch yourself worrying about someone's opinion, ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Most of the time, the answer is no. Will the awkward social moment you had last week haunt you in 5 years? No. Will the criticism from a stranger shape your destiny? No. Will the likes, comments, or gossip determine your real worth? Absolutely not. Once you train your mind to see the absurdity of external validation, a strange thing happens. You become untouchable. You stop flinching at insults. You stop overthinking your every move. You stop seeking approval from people who wouldn't even attend your funeral. And suddenly, life opens up. The third step, the art of strategic disregard. Now, here's the part most people get wrong. Indifference does not mean caring about nothing. It means caring deeply about the right things and ruthlessly discarding the rest. Seneca called this the art of strategic disregard, the ability to choose what truly deserves your concern and ignore everything else. Here's how it works. Care about your principles, not public opinion. The crowd is fickle. One day they cheer you, the next they crucify you. So why chase their approval? Care about your effort, not the outcome. You can control how much you give, but never how it's received. Focus on what's within your power. Care about your growth, not comparison. The only person worth competing against is the version of yourself from yesterday. And as you master this, something profound happens. Your life becomes your own. The fourth step, embracing the power of solitude. Most people fear solitude because it forces them to face themselves. But solitude is not loneliness. It is the birthplace of true strength. Nietzsche once wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." This is the essence of breaking free. You must learn to walk alone, to stand firm in your beliefs even when the world disagrees, to detach from the need to be liked. And when you do, you become something rare, something feared, something unstoppable. You become free. But what happens after freedom? What is the final, most powerful realization? That is what we'll uncover next. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no fear of judgment, no anxiety over what others think, no need for validation, applause, or approval, just pure, unshakable peace. How different would your life be? What risks would you take? What dreams would you chase? What words would you finally have the courage to say? Here's the final, most profound realization of all. You were always free. You just didn't realize it. The grand illusion. Why you were trapped all along. From birth, you were trained to care about things that don't matter. You were taught to seek approval, to measure yourself by external success, to live according to standards set by people who don't even know you. Every society does this. It conditions its people to conform. It tells you that. A high-status job equals a meaningful life. A large following equals self-worth. Being agreeable equals being good. But none of this is true. A job is just a job. Social validation is fleeting. And agreeing with everyone just means you stand for nothing. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." This is the final lesson. The prison was never real. The chains were never locked. You were the only one holding yourself back. The only thing that matters. Once you stop giving a fuck about what doesn't matter, you must decide what does. If you are no longer bound by opinions, what will you pursue? If you no longer chase status, where will you find meaning? If you no longer fear rejection, what will you create? This is where many fail. They stop caring, but they care about nothing. They remove the chains, but they stand still. The Stoics knew this was dangerous. You must replace external validation with internal direction. So, ask yourself, what values do you truly live by? What principles are worth fighting for? What kind of person do you want to become? The world cannot answer this for you. Only you can. The final test. Can you walk alone? The cost of true freedom is solitude, not in the physical sense, but in the mental one. Most people cannot handle being truly independent. They need approval, trends, and crowds to tell them how to live. But those who master indifference to nonsense and devotion to their own path, they become something else entirely. They become immovable. They become unbreakable. They become unstoppable. The world respects those who need nothing from it, and once you reach this level of freedom, something strange happens. The same people who once doubted you will come seeking your wisdom. They will wonder how you became so calm, how you stopped reacting, how you walk through life with such power. And when they ask for your secret, you will simply smile, because the answer was always there. You stopped giving a fuck. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You realized that life is too short to waste on meaningless worries, and in doing so, you became free. The final question is simple. Now that you know the truth, will you act on it, or will you go back to the prison you built for yourself? The choice has always been yours. Final words. If this resonated with you, remember, philosophy is useless unless applied. So, from this moment forward, ask yourself, does this opinion matter? Does this fear serve me? Does this thought align with who I want to become? And if the answer is no, discard it. This is how you master the art of not giving a fuck, the Stoic way. Now go live it.